So for today's project, I'm going to be doing a 6x6 Christmas greeting card. So I've got a 6x6 inch craft card base. I've also cut up another card base to use as a mat in the actual construction of the card, because I want to layer in some of this IndigoBlu damaged damask backing paper in that lovely kind of postbox red colour. So I've already cut a nice little square that I'm going to be using on the front of the card as a nice little backing layer. I'm also going to be using some dictionary text paper, and I've actually gone through the dictionary and I found the page for Christmas. So we've got Christmas, Christmas box, Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas pudding, Christmas rose, blah blah blah, all the way down to Christmas Eve, which is going to be on the front of the card. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to be using this Christmas wreath stamp, which is there, and I've already marked on the back of the stamp, which is the top, which is where the bells are, so there's going to be no whoops moments when I'm stamping. So I'm going to be using black embossing powder for this to create the shape on the front of the card. So the colours, obviously it's Christmas, so I want to use red, gold and green, traditional Christmas colours, because I've also got the red in the backing paper. So I'm going to be using IndigoBlu's metallic red ruby slippers, metallic gold Goldfinger, and metallic green Emerald City. So those are going to be the three colours that I'm going to be using for the card. So to start off with, I've already trimmed out or cut out and put that piece of dictionary paper somewhere else. So to create my layers, what I've done is I'm going to layer up on the front of the card. So I'm going to first of all put down a piece of this lovely red damaged damask, like so. I'm going to glue that down. Then I'm going to glue down this other piece of craft card, and then the dictionary text is going to go over the top of that, leaving that kind of 1/8 of an inch or 2/8 of an inch border all the way around the card. But I don't want it to be totally and utterly perfect because it's a handmade thing. So, but before I do that, I want to add some of this green metallic paint onto this dictionary page. So before I stick any of that down, I want to add some of that green paint over this page, and I'm going to do a little bit of a colour wash. So I'm just going to shake up the paint, because I don't know when it is the last time that I used it, just in case any of it's separated from the binder. So I've got that many different pots of paint, the same colour. So I'm just going to take some of that green. Don't need a lot. Don't need a lot at all. I'm just going to water it down because I want the text to show through as well. I want the text on that to show through that lovely kind of beautiful emerald metallic green. And I'm not going to paint the entire thing. I'm just going to paint the main body of the sheet of dictionary text or dictionary paper, but leave some of that lovely kind of white of the paper showing through. I will just take some of it to the end, and I will just take a little bit up there and a little bit down at the bottom, just so it goes off, but kind of leaving those corners free. I'll just add little variations in the colour depth. The majority you can see through, just a little bit darker in some areas, like so. And then I can drop that brush back in the water, and we can put that green to one side, and you can see the sheen on that green already. Ooh, look, rhyming. Sheen on the green. Right, let's get it dried and I'll be right back. Okay, so that piece of dictionary paper is now dry. Look at that lovely kind of beautiful metallic sheen that there is in that, but you can still see the text behind it. Now, because the dictionary paper is so thin that it doesn't take very long to dry at all, which is cool. So for the next thing, I'm going to bring in the IndigoBlu Stars stencil, and I'm just going to drop that over the top. And I have a little bit of artist sponge, but I've also got the Ruby Slippers red. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a shake. So I've now got some in the lid, and I'm going to actually, let me cut that sponge down, so I'm not going to need a big piece of this. One will do for the 2 bits of stenciling that I want to do today. So I'm just going to take that sponge, pick up some of that red metallic paint, and then I'm going to do just some dabs of that red paint just around the edges and the corners. Just twist it. Like so, until I've got maybe all 4 corners with some of that nice kind of red paint. Okay, just like so. And then we need to get that dry. Okay, now that the red's dry, I'm still going to bring back that stencil, and I'm going to drop that down over the top again. I'm going to give my gold metallic paint a bit of a shake up, make sure I've got plenty in the lid. Take the lid off. Yummy. Down you go, thank you. And then I have the other half of that cosmetic sponge, not cosmetic sponge, the artist sponge. And I'm going to pick up that lovely gold paint, and then just dropping that stencil over the top. I'm then going to go over and just randomly add in some gold stars just over the top and going right into the middle, so that we have some nice kind of layering of colour and sheen, and we'll be getting some of those nice kind of gold stars showing through as a kind of accent over the top. Because we've put the gold over the top of the red, you'll still be able to see some of that shining through. Like so. Okay, let's get that dry. So now I've got all of my layers ready, it's time to start sticking some of them down. So the first thing to do is to take that piece of Postbox Red Damaged Damask, and I'm going to stick that down, making sure that there is an equal-ish border all the way around. And I'm just going to use any kind of craft glue that I've got. Of course, if you wanted to really kind of distress and grunge yours up, you could also go around the edges with a pair of scissors or with a distress tool just to grunge it up as well, but that's not the kind of look that I'm going for. I've cut this piece of red paper just so that it's a couple of millimetres or 1/8 of an inch shorter all the way around, just to give us a little bit of that craft border showing. And of course it will disappear underneath this piece mostly, because that's going to go on the top of there as well. It's just to kind of give it that framed accent. Of course you could have cut the middle out if you wanted to save on the paper. Now, a lot of people do cut the centres out when they're matting and layering like this, but it's never really bothered me. And then drop that down, I've got a little bit of wiggle room just before it grabs. Like so. And then I can now add in my piece of dictionary text. So I'm going to go right up to the edge. But if there's a little bit of lifting in the corners, that's fine. It just gives you a little bit of the appearance of depth, which is great. Just like there, see it's peeling off. But you don't have to have it all so it's stuck down perfectly. I think it's nice if it peels up at the corners. Gives it a certain style, a certain aesthetic when you have things peeling up off the corners. It's quite difficult to do by design. See, I could have curled those up, just put this piece on foam pads and probably got the same effect. Go. Just give it a rub. And if any of the glue squeegees out, that doesn't matter because it just rubs off. Cool. Okay, so now we've got that part done, we can put that to one side and we can work on the next bit. So while that card base is drying, we can now work on our main focal point. So I've got the Christmas wreath stamp set, and I've obviously got the main Christmas wreath image there, which I've mounted onto an acrylic block. I'll just pop that to one side. So I have some Versamark ink, which is for using with embossing powder or creating watermarks. So I'm going to completely go all the way over the stamp. Now I have previously stamped black ink with this design, and what I find is quite useful is if there's actually a residue of the ink left on the stamp, because even though this Versamark is clear, if there is a residue of ink on the stamp, when you stamp it and just put a little bit of pressure down on the stamp all the way around, I'm not pressing very hard, just putting kind of even pressure all the way around, if there's a little bit of that ink left on, when you take it off, that's what you get. You get a kind of ghost impression of the stamp. But because you've used that Versamark, it's still sticky. So I'm now going to cover this with embossing powder. This is Midnight Black embossing powder from Sweet Dixie. So this is not Creative Expressions, I think Personal Impressions' own brand. And this is ultrafine black embossing powder. So I'm just going to sprinkle over. Pretty much get all the design covered. And then I'm just going to shuffle it backwards and forwards and then collect it back in the pot. Give it a wee tap. Yeah, okay. Now I've got bits all hanging around the edges here. That's just static. That's fine. That will go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put hold this over the top of my bin, and then just off shot I'm going to flick the back of the card, and that will release any that's around the edges. There you go. As you can see, put the lid back on my embossing powder before we switch the heat gun on, because we don't want it blowing everywhere. So here we go. Okay, I think we are completely and utterly melted. Got a beautiful nice shine on there, and I think it's come out really well. There's some nice detailing on the leaves, so using that ultrafine black embossing powder really does pay off, because if you use anything thicker then sometimes the design can fill in a little bit, and that's not really what we want. So that's beautiful, love that. So now what I want to do, and I will bring in a piece that I did with some not so fine embossing powder now. There you go. So this was one that I tried out with a different brand of embossing powder. This was Wow. And it wasn't quite as fine, but as you can see, the detailing is a bit chunkier, so it's not quite as fine. I like this one better. This one's good, this one's better. So as you can see, I've cut it out, which is exactly what I'm going to do with this one, but because that's boring for you to watch, then I'm just going to go ahead and do it, and I will be right back. So now I have my wreath completely cut out, including the middle bit. That's now going to go on the front of my card like so. But obviously I want to add some colour into this as well. So I've brought out my Derwent Inktense water soluble pencils, and I'm just going to lightly go over and colour in some of the areas where I want to add in the colour, just to give that a little bit of a hint, and then I'm going to activate these with water in a little while. So I'm not going to go too mad with the colour. So dried orange slices. And then let's get some green. Excuse me. I've got some green in the mistletoe. Down there. And then we have some light brown for the cinnamon sticks. More cinnamon over here. I've also got some pine cones as well, so but I don't want to go too dark. So what have I got here? I've got a baked earth, that's a mustard for the cinnamon. So that's going to be quite nice. So let's do those pine cones in that baked earth. I'm just going to lightly go over. Not going too mad. There's also one up here. More cinnamon up there. And we've got some aniseed there, some star anise. A little bit more green. Up there, a bit more green over here, a bit more green with the pine, and then we'll add some red for that bow. So, a little bit of water, just put those pencils away, and I'll just start activating all that colour. Just make it pop a little bit. I've just got a little pot of water just off camera, just to my side. I'm not going too mad. Just activate that colour a little bit. It just helps to bring it alive, even though it's not necessarily totally botanically accurate. I don't think it really needs it. Okay, just clean off the brush, and then we'll make a start on doing the pine cone. And then the cinnamon sticks. I think I'll just use that same colour for those little tiny seedy pods. Just a nice little bit of subtle colour. And then for the bow, just like that. Like I said, it doesn't have to be completely perfect, and it doesn't have to be totally and utterly anatomically correct. As long as you've got the gist, I think that's going to be it. Now I wanted to add a little bit of kind of gold onto the bells, but I don't have, I think I may actually have a gold pencil. There we go. This is a Caran d'Ache pencil, and it's supposed to be gold. I've never really used it much, but let's just see. Let's just go around adding in. I could have gone over, I think, with some of that watered down IndigoBlu Miss Moneypenny, but I just thought I'd give this pencil a try. It's not water soluble. This is quite a hard nibbed one. There is, I suppose, a little bit of a metallic shine to it, but not a brilliant one. Let's see whether I can do better. Let's bring out that gold again. Just take a very, very minor dot. Add some water. And let's just see whether we can add that little colour wash of gold. I think that's going to work better. There we go. So let me just give it a quick blast with the heat gun. So there you have it. The bells are now a bit more shiny. So we can now add that to the front of our card project. So I need 3D foam pads. Here we go. So let's add some 3D foam pads onto the back. Onto the back. And we'll just go around adding these on. little circular pop dots of dimensional yumminess. Could have used foam tape and just cut small strips. That probably would have been just the same. Besides, the backs of these are really, really easy to get off. And we're awake again. Okay, so that's all the backs off. And then I can just place that down somewhere kind of in the middle and just give it a little bit of a push. Look at the shine. Love it, absolutely love it. Okay, so I'm not going to put a sentiment on the front. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this sentiment, this Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year sentiment, on the inside of the card. But I'm going to do what I did previously, is I'm just going to stamp it directly into the back. Let me just see if I can line that up, so if my head gets in shot, I do apologise. There we go, you can see my bald patch now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss that, because I'm not particularly bothered about it going, if it's on the inside, it's fine. So let's grab the Versa mark, give it a squidge over, and then bring the card blank in, get it lined up pretty much. I think that's going to be just about in the centre. If I get it wrong, it's fine, because I can always add another sheet over the top. But I think even if there's a little bit of a kink on it, it don't matter too much. Who wants a card for Christmas that looks like it's been mass produced in a factory in China? Not me! I'm just going to knock all that off. There's a little bit just there. I'm just going to see if I can try and brush away. And let's give it a blast. Well, the strangest things happened. The embossing powder has actually melted into the craft cardstock. And now it looks like it's been branded in. How bizarre. Look, there's no shine on that at all. It's actually sunk into the craft card. How bizarre. Like I said, it hasn't shone through the other side, but it just looks like it's been branded. Oh well, unexpected event. And that is my Christmas wreath card for my IndigoBlu project for the month of December.